For this sample, we'll be doing a centered zipper. You'll be using the 22A pattern piece. You'll be cutting 2 of them. You will also need a 7-inch zipper, along with the zipper foot, which is letter E. The letter E you can see right here. The first thing we are going to do is we're going to take our 2 pattern pieces, right sides together. We're going to stitch at 5/8 of an inch, a plain seam. It is going to be a basting stitch because you will be taking it out in order to see the zipper once the zipper is sewn in. So your basting stitch is at a stitch length of 4. Because you plan on taking it out, you will not be back stitching. So all the way down with a basting stitch. Here is my basting stitch completed. I'm going to go ahead and clip my threads. It is important to clip your threads throughout your samples and your projects so that they don't get caught in any other seams later on. So here's my basting stitch. From here, I'm going to go ahead and open up my seam and press it open. So I want to lay nice and flat. Now that I have pressed it, you can see that my seam allowance is pressed open and laying nice and flat. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and change the foot on my machine to zipper foot E. You will notice that there are 2 spots to hook up zipper foot E. Depending on where the zipper is going to be will determine on which side you will put the ankle on. So, right now I'm going to put it so that the ankle is attached to the right side of the foot. I'm going to take my zipper and place it face down in the center of my seam allowance. You are going to notice that the zipper is longer than your pattern pieces. That is okay because we will actually be snipping off the excess. The zipper is a 7-inch zipper, which accounts for the stop of the zipper all the way to where the zipper stops, or the zipper zips all the way to the top. So what we are going to be doing is placing the zipper tape where it's slightly over the edge, where the actual zipper is all the way to the top of our seam, and you will notice then the zipper stop comes basically to the bottom of our material. You are going to pin this into place, and you are only going to be sewing the zipper to the right seam allowance. So when you put this together, move everything out of the way. I am only working with the right seam allowance. Line up your zipper with the edge of the seam allowance all the way down. So now you're going to be sewing right down that seam allowance, attaching the zipper tape to the seam allowance that's underneath. The first stitch down is going to be a basting stitch. It's just holding the zipper in place for you. I moved my zipper foot over because I realized that I would like my zipper foot to follow along the zipper. I do not want the actual zipper to go underneath my foot. As I'm going down, you want your zipper foot to stay right along the teeth of the zipper. Because this is a basting stitch, I am not going to backstitch. One way to avoid the bump around the stop is to actually unzip it slightly. So you're going to take the tab of the zipper, unzip it a little bit so that this will lay nice and flat. Once you get about even to it, you will pull it up, and then that way you can continue straight on down. So I'm going to go ahead and start basting. When I get about even, I'm going to put my needle down. I'm going to pull my zipper up. And now I can continue without having a bulge around that zipper tab. Make sure to pull your pins out as you go. You are only sewing the zipper tape down to the right side of your seam allowance. Sew all the way to the end. So now it has been attached only to the right side. Now you're going to open it up, make sure everything lays flat. The next step is going to be your permanent stitch. So you want to make sure that you are doing a nice, steady, and straight stitch. You will change your stitch length to 2.5. You will now come down right where you base it, but now you're actually sewing everything to the front. So you'll come down the side, pivot across the bottom, and then you'll come back up. Again, we want to avoid having the bump from going around this, so we're going to unzip this so that it remains nice and straight. Because this is permanent and I am now stitching two things together, the front of the fabric to the seam allowance, which has the zipper tape, I'm going to do a back stitch. Put your needle down when you get close to the zipper so that you can hold your place in the fabric. Zipper, pull the zipper tab up. That way I avoid any bulges. Continue down. You can see that I'm keeping the edge of my foot nice and close to the teeth of the zipper. When you get towards the end, you want to put your presser foot down. You're going to lift it up, pivot. You're going to sew over these teeth. Now, this is a nylon zipper, so you can sew over it without breaking the needle. If it was a metal zipper, you would not be doing that. So go ahead and sew right over it. Put your needle down, pivot. Again, I'm going to make sure the side of my foot is close to the teeth. I'm still sewing everything down to the front. So make sure everything's laying nice and flat. I'm going to want to sew as far as I can. When I start hitting the zipper tab, put my needle down, lift up my presser foot, and then push that tab past the presser foot. What that's going to do again is to avoid that bump around, so it's going to keep that nice straight line. If it gets stuck, you can always push further up. Keep your needle in, but push further up on your presser foot and get that tab out of the way. So now I've taken my zipper and moved it out of the way, or almost out of the way. So you can see it is unzipped. I'm going to go ahead and lower my presser foot, finish off the stitch, back stitch. So from the front, this is what it looks like. You can see that everything is nice and straight. I came across the bottom and back up the top. When you are doing yours, you're going to make sure that you're using a like color for your thread because you're not going to want to see it. We used white so that you can see where the actual stitching is. The last step is to take out your basting in the middle so that you can see your zipper. So you're going to take a seam ripper and right down the middle you're going to undo your basting stitches that you started with. They should start to pull apart for you. Make sure not to rip your material, so take your time. You can see the little white dots, that's the basting stitches. So I am undoing all the basting stitches. Okay, so you take out all of your threads. You can see now that you have a functioning zipper. The last step is that you're going to trim the tails off the top and the bottom. Clip the tail, clip the tail. Don't go through the stop. So you'll see that little metal stop on the bottom. You want to make sure that you don't cut that off because that's going to stop the zipper. Make sure all your threads are cut, and that is your zipper sample.